He's like, it doesn't taste the same. I'm like, too bad. So I'll make a whole pan of bacon on the weekend, and then my kids will eat a slice every morning. I'll just warm it up. And you can do the same with sausage. Quiche is great. You can make mini quiches, or even if you just have a whole quiche, you can slice it and eat throughout the week. When we had the catering business and the prepared meals, I would offer a salad bar. So I would send a giant tub of mixed greens. I would prep cucumbers, tomatoes, and each week was like a different dressing and different toppings that kind of like a Mexican salad or a cilantro lime, or and but you could do like a themed salad bar, and then it's just like stuff for you to pull from, and so you don't have to cut everything every time you want a salad. You can just grab what you need. Grilled chicken is great. Everybody can eat grilled chicken, even my kids. And that's something you can do and put on. The grill is amazing. I encourage you to use the grill. Not right now because it's freezing, but you could do marinated vegetables, chicken, pork chops, things like that you can nibble on throughout the week. Maybe have the grilled veggies with dinner, but then you could cut them up and eat them in a salad the next day. The different salads, so tuna salad, egg salad, chicken salad, those are really great to have. And those are even ones that I would totally buy at the store, like already made. Like go to the Good Deli and get that, and it's just an easy grab. Soup, again, I love soup. It makes me happy. People ask me, like, what's my favorite thing to cook? And I remember when I ran the cafe for Bank of America, I would make like 15 gallons of soup a day, and I loved it. Like, I had my little stove, and I had my 3 pots, and it would be like 5 gallons of each soup, and people love soup. So, anyway, that's my own problem. Cheese cubes are great. It's way cheaper to just buy a block of cheese and cut them up, but, convenience is also nice, so. Cucumber sticks, just any kind of veggie sticks, things that your kids eat to just promote healthy snacking. It's so easy to go in the pantry and grab like chips and things, and I try to tell my kids, like, that's for when we're in the car, like, or when we're out. It's not when we're at home. So, and then cut up fruit as well. Just easy ways to kind of integrate that sort of stuff. Let's see here. Okay, now to the fun part. All right, so knives and things. This is one of the things that a lot of people always ask me about, is like the best stuff. So Cutlery and More is a great website. They have like premium knives at a great discount, and I would just encourage you to check them out if you're in search of knives. So generally, I mean, there are tons of different knives, tons of different companies. I just kind of outlined two. Typically, like a Japanese brand is going to be a softer steel, but it's going to be like a much sharper blade. I have the Global knives are my favorite. They're also very small, so it's nice for like smaller hands. And that's the pictures you see here is Global, but that's one of the brands that I really like. You can hone, here's the thing, is you can hone them. So this is a diamond steel. I mean, it's not real, I don't know if it's real diamonds, but that's what, so you're basically, when you're honing, you are taking that main blade that you have and you're just kind of straightening it back out. When you're sharpening, you're actually taking off metal and like putting on a new blade, if that makes sense. So these are good because you can hone them easily, but you'd have to hone them more than you would like German steel, which is going to be like your Hinkels, Wusthoffs, Willing, which are very common. Those are great knives. They'll last forever. These are all good knives. This is actually one of my knives from culinary school I still have. But they sharpen well. It's a much harder steel. So, oh, yes.
What does hone mean, and why would you do that, and when? I'm serious.
So, like when you go to the Japanese steakhouse and the guy's like, with this thing, yeah. Like he's honing his blade. So basically, you're just straightening. So as you use the knife, if you hit it on something, like it gets little like kind of dents in the blade. Basically, like a blade is like a point, obviously. So it gets like little dents in it. So you're just kind of straightening it back out. Where sharpening is like the blade, you're no longer like this, you're kind of like this, and you need to put a tip back on it. So you're really removing metal and creating a new point. But you don't have to hone it every time, but like chefs will typically, like when they start a shift, they'll like hone all their knives and just get them, back to where they need to be. And so, any more, did that make sense? Yes.
If you sharpen a knife too much, will you end up having a smaller knife after
Yes. I didn't bring it, but I have my first knife that my mom gave me, and I think it was a Woostock. And see where these little like dimples are? These are here to like help food not stick to it, like if you're cutting cheese or something. So my blade is like kind of dipping into these little guys. But yeah, you can definitely take off too much. A lot of sharpening tools, like the electric ones, they take off a lot of metal. So I have, it's called a tri-stone, so it's 3 different stones. There's like the coarse grain, medium grain, and fine grain, and so that takes off like different levels of the metal. But that is a sharpener. There's whetstones that a lot of people use where you like soak it in water. The one I have is oil. But there are sharpening surfaces that are really good as well. But those electric ones do work, but they also make them that are not electric, that are not quite as hard on your knife. So yeah, it's a tricky topic, but definitely always a sharp knife is way safer than a dull knife, because you're going to push and work a lot harder to make that knife work, and you're a lot more likely to cut yourself on a dull knife than a sharp knife. Okay, so that's kind of knives in a nutshell. The 3 that I would suggest having is a chef knife, so it's going to be your larger knife that you can do a lot bigger tasks with. And then a paring knife is smaller, so that's going to be like your small veggies and things like that. You can use it in your hand and like kind of, do that thing. And then a bread knife. So that's kind of the main 3 that I would suggest. There are everything in between. This is, I think it's called like a vegetable prep knife. I like it because it's small. So I can do most things that I need to with this. And get the job done. So, and hand wash. Don't put them in the dishwasher. I know it's easy, but it will damage the metal, and it'll shorten the life of your knife. So just hand wash them really quick. It's my one suggestion there. Any more questions on knives? Okay. All right, hand tools. So I know they sell like 8 million different little cute hand tools for the kitchen. My mom always tells me, I got this new little thing and it peels an egg. I'm like, are you sure? Anyway, she says it works, but so a peeler. Typically peelers were vertical, right? Like that's more of the old school peeler. I love a horizontal peeler. It's more like ergonomically it makes sense. So when you're holding your produce, you can just, and don't hack at it, like go on one long stroke, like your potato, one long stroke. And it'll be a lot quicker and a lot less frustrating. Microplane, one of these guys, maybe you've seen them at the nail salon. That terrifies me. I'm like, no, you cannot grate my feet. But they do work. So these are great for cheese, obviously, but zesting citrus, even garlic cloves. If you don't want to sit there and mince up garlic, it's really quick. Ginger, things like that. Chocolate. If you want to make a fancy little decoration on your cake, you can like shave chocolate, Parmesan, things like that. I really like wooden cooking utensils. One, they don't melt. They might catch on fire, but hopefully I haven't had that happen yet. But they are handy for that. They won't scratch your non-stick things, and they do make them now that you can put them in the dishwasher and they come out fine. I don't know what it is too. Maybe I feel more grounded when I'm using wood. I don't know. I had a Chinese client that taught me about feng shui, so I was like, maybe I've taken that with me. Scoops. So these little scoops down here are amazing for all different kinds of things. Portion control, but scooping cookie dough, scooping muffin batter. It's just consistent. I have a set that's like multiple sizes, and I'll even use it if I'm baking a cake. And I've got different layers, and I'll do like, okay, I did 4 scoops in each pan, and it comes in handy all the time. Pepper grinder. I encourage you to have a pepper mill that actually grinds it fresh. The stuff on the shelf has been there for God knows how long. So pepper is like it's a seed of a plant, and so it has oils in it. And so once you grind it, it starts to kind of die, basically. So freshly ground pepper is going to have a lot more flavor. Kitchen shears. These I love. I have shear, like scissors all over my kitchen. I use them for all sorts of things. These can come apart. You put them in the dishwasher. Yeah, well, some of them don't. Some of them don't. This little doodad is for opening a jar right here. So you can like open it up and help get a grip on a jar. But yeah, definitely kitchen scissors are amazing. And most of them can just go right in the dishwasher. So that's that. Any questions on those kind of things? Nope. Okay. Let's see. Oh, here's QR codes if anybody needs them. And we'll send out the slides too. But for cutlery and more, and then those are just codes for Amazon for those peelers and the microplane. All right, pots and pans. So I did not bring my whole set because that would be crazy. I did, the photographed ones here are all clad. All clad is amazing. I was luckily gifted this for my wedding. So this is 14 years old, but it still keeps ticking. It's an investment, right? Like pots and pans, if they're thin, they're not going to conduct heat well, and so you're more likely to burn things. So heavy, it should be heavy. I mean, not too crazy heavy, but heavy enough, and having lids that go with it is amazing. The upside to having metal handles is it can all go in the oven. You don't have to worry about it melting. But there's tons of different great brands out there that are all really excellent. But you'll notice like the bottom is thicker. Like I was looking here to see if there was a couple I could show, but they're kind of thin. You know, like especially big pots, they tend to be thinner like aluminum. So stainless steel is definitely better and heavier bottomed. But you really don't need like 8,000 pots and pans. A saucepan is going to be your smaller pan for making sauces, but all sorts of different things. And then a stock pot is great. It's very versatile. You could even put a roast in there. You can make bread in the oven. And then a saute pan. I love saute pans. They're amazing. If it's not nonstick, you have to preheat it or it's gonna stick. So if you preheat a normal pan like that with a little bit of oil, like you could actually make an omelet in there without it sticking, but it's a little tricky. So saute pans are great for cooking, you know, smaller things. All right, so speaking of nonstick, this is a very common question. Is like, what's the best nonstick pan? In my mind, nonstick are kind of disposable. Not like I'm going to use it once, but you're going to use it for maybe a year or two, and then you're going to have to get another one. So I don't typically buy, like, I'm not going to buy an all-clad nonstick pan because I would need to take out a mortgage. So this one I actually got at Amazing Savings. And I was going to tell you too, like on the bottom here, I know you cannot see it, it says NSF, and so that's restaurant grade, and so it's more likely to last, like especially cutting boards. If you see equipment like restaurant or kitchen equipment with NSF, that's going to be like tougher. It's going to last longer. But also with a nonstick, it's heavy, like it's got a nice heavy bottom, and you don't want to cook on too high of a temperature because then it starts to like degrade the nonstick magic. I don't know what. So that's my little bit on nonstick. Sheet pans are amazing. I know I talked about the bacon going in the oven in a sheet pan.
Question.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on caraway?
Like seeds?
No, the
Oh.
the brand pots.
I don't know.
They're like the latest in craze.
What are they,
They're,
non-stick?
yeah, they're ceramic. So, what are your thoughts?
I don't know. I've never used they're always coming up with something new. So I'd say, you know, if you want to try it, do your homework. I try not to go down that rabbit hole because like there's always something new. And like my mom, she got some kind of green nonstick, and then it lost its coating very quickly, and so you know I think there is a lot to that. There's also alternatives. Like I was saying with this pan, like you can make it work. There's like cast iron. They're tricky. They're like babies. You have to really take care of cast iron. You can't really wash them like you want to. But yeah, I don't know. The Hex Clad, that's a new one, right? From Gordon Ramsay. I've been tempted to try that one, but okay, yeah. Any more? Is that? Okay. So sheet pans. This is a sheet pan. Like I think they call them jelly roll pans too. But they're amazing. They're good for all different kinds of things, for cookies and stuff. So yeah, these are kind of like the core items that I would think would be helpful to have in your kitchen. And also, like, I hand wash those pots, so you know it's gonna last longer. There's stuff in your washing detergent that kind of like etches the metal, and so it's just they don't last as long if you put them in the dishwasher. Okay, so here's some other kitchen equipment. I feel like Instapot kind of covers like several of these. I don't have one, but it seems like really high tech, so I'm old school. Crock pots are great for obviously large batch cooking, slow and low, but the Instapot kind of does everything, I think, which is amazing. Rice cooker is, I love rice cooker. We eat rice a lot at our house, and so I'll make a big batch and we'll just eat off of it for a few days. And does anybody have a rice cooker? Or like, okay, so do you know the trick for measuring the water? Okay, so when you put the rice in, well, a lot of times you want to rinse the rice to get the extra starch off so it's not too sticky. But then you fill it up with water, and basically you want to put your fingertip on the yeah, it works. You put your fingertip on the rice, and then the water should come up to your first knuckle. And I know everybody's different, but somehow it works. Like, everybody's knuckles are probably a little different. But that's how much water. So you don't have to sit there and, like, measure rice and water and all that stuff. But, yeah, I love a rice cooker. Blenders are also great. You can do so many things in blenders. Vitaprep, by far, is, like, really amazing. They're expensive. It's an investment. But you can make dressings, marinades, soups, smoothies, all sorts of things, baby food. Air fryer, is air fryer a popular thing? Does everybody have one pretty much? Yeah. So people, I feel like a lot, maybe it's like the older generation too are confused, like is it a fryer? What is it? It's basically like a tiny convection oven. So it's just pushing really hot air really fast and it just cooks a lot faster. So you don't need oil. Like my mom's always like, how to spray oil on it? Like, no. You're missing the point. It's healthier. So these are just a few pieces of equipment that I would recommend. Oh, this slide, I messed up that one. He doesn't want to show up. Okay, so jumping into some tips and tricks for produce. We all spend a lot of money on produce. So I wanted to try and give you guys some helpful information. So avocados is always hard to pick the right one. So, and you guys are welcome to come up here and feel these. But this one, it's got darker skin. And when you push on it, it gives a little bit. Like this one is green, or a little greener, and it's firm, very firm. But once you get them to like a happy place, you can put them in the refrigerator and they will stay good for weeks. I mean, I've tested it out. Some of them get a little wrinkly, but you can still cut into them, and they're amazing. So let's see. So we're in the fridge, and if you put things out on the counter, they're going to continue to ripen. Ultimately, they're going to decay. So the fridge is like your friend with your produce. It will help you keep them alive longer. So just as how you would want to cut an avocado. You want to go down to the core and around, and the pit is in there. So you just want to hit the pit and then twist. And oh, he's not that pretty. But I always use this side first. Like if I'm just going to use half an avocado and then stick him in the fridge, and that way, like the pit is basically the oxygen is what like oxidizes them and makes them yucky. So like your little pocket is protected, and then you can just kind of slice off that top layer when you're ready to use the other half. All right, berries and grapes. I didn't bring any, but you can kind of still do the same thing like with a container like this. Always do the flip check at the store. Flip it over, look at the bottom, because that's where if there's yucky stuff, it's probably on the bottom. If it looks moist, if there's any furry friends in there, like just put him back and get his neighbor. But they should be dry and uniform. It's hard this time of year because produce, but I mean, we get it from all over the world, so you do hit the jackpot sometimes. Grapes, I know back in the day, like we used to steal a grape and eat it, but that is scary now. So I just squeeze them. Give them a little squeeze. They should be firm. If they're squishy, they're probably, they're squishy. Nobody wants a squishy grape. And sniff test. Like I know sometimes when I walk into the big walk-in at Costco, like I smell strawberries. I'm like, ooh, the strawberries are good. So like I encourage you, you might look like a crazy person, but just like sniff the strawberries, nectarines, peaches, things like that. Like they should smell good. If they don't have a smell, they're probably not very ripe or in season. Melons and citrus. So your melon should be like, when you pick it up, you should be like, whoa, that's heavier than I thought it was going to be. That means it's got a lot of sugar, and it should be good. Heavy equals sugar and juice. So our citrus, when you're looking at them, I know they all kind of look the same, but if the skin looks thick and like kind of fluffy, it's probably not going to have as much juice in it. It's going to have more rind. Whereas if the skin looks thin, it's going to have more juice. For melons, just leave them out on the counter. They're almost 100% of the time they're not ripe at the store. I mean, only in the dead of summer when they're like, when you walk in, you're like, whoa, I smell melons. Like that's when they're ripe. Otherwise, I would leave them on the counter and just, give them a little sniff. And when they start to smell like a melon, like then they're ready to cut. And then even if you get to that point and you're like not ready to use it, if it smells like it's ready, just put it in the fridge and it'll kind of like give you a couple more days. Veggies, your skin should be vibrant. Of course, they should look yummy and delicious. Greens, so I have a pack of greens here. This is arugula. I know a lot of our greens come in containers like this, which is really nice. It shouldn't be wet in there. A lot of times there's like condensation happening, and sometimes it's just because the refrigerator, the airflow in there is changing the temperature. But if it looks wet, if the greens look wet, I would put it back and look for a different one. And you can usually do kind of a spot check and see if there's like some squishy ones in there. But usually, what they say, one bad apple ruins the whole cart. Or the bunch, I don't know. So just, put it back and try to get another one. Herbs and asparagus. So I have some herbs here. If you have room to put them in water in your fridge. And then sometimes like to wrap them with a little wet paper towel. If you can't do that, just wash them and wrap them in a wet paper towel and put them in a Ziploc, and it'll just keep it fresh longer. Asparagus, like I bought asparagus and it lasted for like a week in the fridge in a cup of water because it kind of like keeps growing. I mean, it doesn't like get tall, but it keeps it alive. It's like flowers. And you guys know the trick with asparagus. I was going to bring some, but I forgot to grab it. Like when you bend it, like gently bend it, and then wherever it breaks, like that's where you should cut it. So I do like a tester and I'll break one and then I'll line it up next to all of his friends, and like that's where I cut the whole bunch. So that way you're not, because asparagus can be very woody. And sometimes it's sad. It's like a short little guy, but I don't want to chew on a woody asparagus. So like I was saying, if you leave it on the counter, it's going to continue to ripen. If you refrigerate it, it kind of pauses the decay. So I like to have some produce out on the counter, like my apples and pears and bananas and things like that, just so they're easy to grab, but I'll like replenish every few days. Another thing too is all of those that I just mentioned are going to release a lot of those gases that are good when you're trying to ripen an avocado. Like if you need to ripen it, put it in a paper bag with a banana or a couple bananas and it'll help ripen it faster. But like when I have tomatoes, I put them on the other side of the kitchen because I don't want them to get that gas from the other veggies, and they last a lot longer when they're not sitting next to bananas. Any questions on that kind of stuff? Also, I will say I've found, as far as prices go, I've become a big fan of Aldi. They have, especially for produce, the meats, like I've tried, they're not amazing, but they're not bad either. So, where you can save money, try to save money if you want to, if that's your jam. But they have great veggies. They have a lot of organic options too. You can go there for like your staples and then go to like a specialty store for your meats and things like that. Let's see. Oh, there we go. Okay, so we're at our dressing. So this is just kind of a generic ratio for dressing. So we're gonna do 1/4 of a cup of an acidic liquid, so vinegar, basically, or you could use citrus juice, and then 3/4 of a cup of oil, a tablespoon of mustard, and 2 tablespoons of sweetener. And then you can add whatever herbs and seasoning you would like, and then obviously salt and pepper. So I was gonna have you guys help me make a dressing. If I could get somebody to yell out. So I have, let's see. Oh, get too close to that. So I have white balsamic, white wine vinegar, regular balsamic, and rice vinegar. And then I also have an aged balsamic, which is really good to just use like on its own. So when it says it's aged, they just put it in a barrel, and it basically, a lot of the water evaporates out of it, so it's like a more concentrated, it's a lot sweeter. So what vinegar should we use? Anybody?
White balsamic.
White balsamic, all right. So I've got my bowl here. All right. And I did not bring measuring cups, but you know, I usually don't measure things. All right. All right, so we've got the white balsamic. All right, so I also have Dijon or whole grain mustard. Dijon, okay. This helps emulsify it so it doesn't break. So, just do a little tablespoon of that. All right, and then we have honey or maple syrup. Honey. Honey is my go-to sweetener especially for dressings. It's easy, like you just squirt it in. And it's natural, which is nice. It's not refined sugar. And this also helps to emulsify it. Okay, and then we have avocado oil or extra virgin olive oil.
Extra virgin olive oil.
All right.
Flavor profile.
Yes. Okay. So, and then we need to pick some herbs. So we kind of are on an Italian path here. Let's see. We have thyme, oregano, basil, parsley. Oregano. Okay. So, just another little tip. So when you're doing herbs that are more woody, like oregano or thyme, you want to start at the top and pull them down to take the leaves off. And then you can just kind of pinch the top off of that. But it's way easier than trying to pick all the leaves off individually.
Heather, where are you getting all of these herbs this time of year for under like $50?
Oh, I went to, $35 I think I spent. What's that place called? The Giant Farmers Market in Hackensack. That's another great thing. Places that have things more in bulk they go through it. Like that's the other thing about the not smaller, but like Stop and Shop and that kind of store. Like they stock it because they have to make it look a certain way, where like the Giant Farmers Market is stocking it because they're going through it. So look for places that are busy. That's helpful. And that was, it's like $1 for a bunch, where at the other places it's a lot more. All right, so, and I'm gonna do some green onion too. I always like to have some kind of an onion component in my dressing, whether it's garlic or some kind of onion. Red onion sometimes is a little strong. So I'm just gonna cut this guy in half here and slice it up.
Talking about onions, can you see the differences between like different onions and when you should use them?
So red onions and shallots, they're all so great. So I would say more, if you're gonna eat it raw, I would stick to a red onion. That just seems to be the better raw one. Cooking, now onions all have lots of sugar, so they're gonna caramelize really nicely however you utilize them if you're gonna cook them. Typically I would use more of like a white or a yellow onion if I'm making like a soup or a stew or something like that. Red onions, I do use more in a raw application, but they're also really delicious to cook. Or if I do like roasted veggies, they look really nice too. They're purple, so they look really beautiful in the. So when I'm doing like an herb like this, I kind of got it bunched up, and I'll go into this more when we do the knife stuff. But you want to just rock it, and you're not like. You're trying to like slice through it, not like that. So you want to kind of slide through the herb so it doesn't bruise it, because herbs are very tender, and they'll bruise and turn black, and that's not pretty. And they don't taste as good too. So all right, so we have oregano. I'm gonna do some parsley. The parsley stems are amazing. They're great to save and put in soups and stocks. And you can just start like a freezer bag. That's another thing too I was going to talk about. If you're all your scraps that are usable, just freeze them until you need them. Like even tomatoes, like if they start to get squishy, not squishy, but like wrinkly and they're not great for a salad, just pop them in the freezer and pull them out and use them in a soup or a stew or something that's going to cook for a while. I also do that with berries, because berries are so expensive. But when they start to get not like moldy, but like maybe you don't want to have them that way, just freeze them. And I have like a bag where I just dump whatever kind of berry it is that I'm trying to save, and then I'll make like a jam or like a crisp or something with it, and that way you're not throwing them away, because it's really sad to throw those away. Alright, so any more things that we want to add to our dressing? Because this is going to go on our pasta salad that everybody can have. Alright, so that's probably good. Alright, and then we're going to do a little salt and pepper. Salt, I like to use kosher salt. That's just kind of what I was taught, like in culinary school. I mean, sea salt is great too. I do try to stay away from iodized salt. It's just really salty. And I don't know, I just like kosher salt better. All right, so here's a little trick too for when you are whisking something in a bowl. Get a wet towel and just make a little nest. So if you're making whipped cream or whatever it is, and then that way you can have your hand free. So we're just going to mix up our base. This is kind of our base ingredients for our dressing. And then we're going to add in our olive oil. So this part you want to just drizzle slowly. And the goal is for it to emulsify. If it doesn't, it's okay. You can just put it like in a mason jar and just give it a shake. But if you use a blender, you're almost guaranteed to get a nice emulsified dressing that's going to be nice and creamy. So when you're whisking, you're really just trying to hold the whisk on the bottom of the bowl and move it in a circle. We're not really moving the whisk up and down. I mean, I would say like a week or two. Yeah, I mean, I've kept dressings for longer than that, and they're still good. I mean, the only like questionable things that we have in here are the herbs and the onions. So if they start to get a little funky, that's when you gotta let it go. But you know it got funky. Well, I mean, you can just tell, I think, when it tastes, or if you see anything growing in there.
That I know.
But yeah, the taste would tell the big difference. So I'm going to do a little bit of avocado oil. I do like to use more of a neutral oil when I'm making dressings. Extra virgin is amazing, but especially like a good one is going to have more like grassy green flavor to it. And I mean, canola, vegetable oil. I know there's a lot of controversy around those because they're hot processed. That's why I switched to avocado. But this will be a more neutral flavor. So Here's our dressing. Does anybody want to come try it? Tell me what it needs. It's sour. It's okay. You taste it. That's the most important thing too that I feel like a lot of people get caught up and they don't do is they don't taste it. So when you're cooking, try to taste your food. I'm gonna do a little more honey because it's zippy. All right. I think that is good. Awesome. Okay, well there's our dressing. We're going to use that on our pasta salad here in just a little bit. So let's see, where's my clicker? Any questions on dressing?
Got one over here.
Yeah. Oh, hey.
Do you ever use dried herbs?
Not so much for dressings. I like the fresh, but you can. Like dried dill is probably my more appealing dried herb because it has still a lot of flavor. I don't know. I've just gotten to where I like fresh better. And they do keep really well if you do take care of them in the fridge. But dried herbs are great too, but they're not going to give you as much flavor in this application. If you're doing a long cooking process, they can be very helpful, especially like a tomato sauce or a stew or something like that. So, all right, I gotta keep moving here. All right, so marinades, it's going to be a similar setup that we just did to the dressing. So it's very interchangeable. Some kind of an acidic liquid, or you could use like beer or wine is always really nice. A little bit of oil, you don't need a whole lot. And then a mustard or a salty flavor like Worcestershire or soy sauce is really nice. And you don't have to have a sweetener. It just depends on what application, what flavors you're doing. And then your own, choice of herbs and spices to kind of go with the flavor profile that you're choosing. All right, so knife skills. Hold the knife like a hammer is one big thing to know how to hold the knife correctly. I'll get my cutting board set back up so I can show you guys some stuff. In just a second, when I finish these. Okay, so we're gonna hold it like a hammer, right? So your thumb should be on the side, fingers wrapped all the way around. The claw is what we call it. So the other hand that's holding whatever it is, if you do a claw to hold that item, you're not gonna cut your fingertips because they're not out there, they're clawed. And keep your thumb back there too. So, when you're doing like an onion or something like that, if you do the claw, you'll save your fingertips. Like I said before, let the knife do the work. Don't try it. You shouldn't have to push super hard to get it to go through whatever you're working on. And you want to cut with the center of the blade. Like this middle portion is where you're going to get the most power. If you're back here, you're kind of going to hack into it. If you're up here, you don't have as much force. Let's see, and then rock and rotate. So like if I was gonna do like these green onions, I would keep the tip on the board and then go kind of in a counterclockwise motion to work through that item. Okay, if you wanna switch it around. Oh, I did have a test I wanted to do while Emily's getting that set up. Can I get 4 volunteers to come up? All right, Amy. Anybody else? Yay! All right, do you want to be team orange, team lemon, or team lime? Orange, okay. Pick an orange. That one, okay. All right, so we're going to come, hold on, we need to unhook it for just a second, but that's a perfect spot right there. Okay, so come up here, ladies. So we talked a little bit about produce earlier. If you want to come up to the yellow cutting boards. All right, so we have 2 oranges, just kidding. So when you're juicing citrus, you want to roll it on the cutting board like that and give it a good squeeze, and it will help loosen up all of the juice inside. And that way you get more juice out of it. So our test here is to find out which orange is going to give us more juice. Which one do you think it'll be?
This one.
That one. Why?
It's a little bit thinner.
Yeah, it's got the thin skin, but the one that she's got looks really nice, right? Like you want to put it in the middle of the table on the display. All right, so if you want to cut those in half, yes, that way. And then we have, I'm sorry, my cup is here. Oh, it looks pretty good. Oh, this might be a close one. If you want to just squeeze it into the cups, we'll see who's got. Oh, why is it doing this? Marking our faces. Yeah, you can have it.
Is there a right way to squeeze it?
No, y'all are doing good. I do have a juicer. I love juicers, especially if you're doing something that requires a lot of juice. For an orange, they do make a larger juicer. But yeah, you want to just squeeze as much as you can out of it. Amy's doing great. Here, I'll take it if you're done. Are you got it? Are you done? Oh, I don't know, Becky. All right. So this was just kind of going back to what we talked about the produce as far as the appearance. So like this doesn't look as pretty, right? It's kind of yellow. But what I've found is limes that are like more yellow actually have more juice than like a bright green lime. And especially the thinner the skin, like I can tell by holding these that like this one is heavier, so it's gonna give us more juice. All right, how are we doing? Oh my gosh, okay, well they might have debunked my theory, but it's okay. I've cut a lot of citrus, so I can speak from, it was a size, yeah. No, you're good. All right. Well, here, let me give you a towel. Awesome. Oh, we'll have a little goodie for you. Thanks for being a good sport. Sorry. Just a little experiment. Yeah, you're good. I mean, you can drink it if you want it. That's true. Thanks, Lily. Okay. Oh, wait. Now we got to do this. Okay. So I'm just going to quickly kind of show you guys how to cut some different items that are typically one of the things that people say, like, oh, that was a lot easier if I would have done it that way. Let's see here. We'll start with a pepper. So, you want, these have all been washed, so they're good to go. But you want to cut, are we down? Oh, it's on the wrong camera. Oh gosh, I don't know. I don't remember how to switch it. Is it that one?
On top.
Nope. Yes? Okay. There we go. Maybe up a little bit more. Oh. Okay. All right. So you want to cut the 4 sides off and leave the middle like a square, so you don't have to fight with all the seeds. Right? So there's all of our seeds, and then you can cut the bottom off. And then you can actually cut like the seed core out of the middle. And then if you want to, get every last drop, like you can break these little guys off too. So that way, like that's all you're throwing away. And then with fruits and vegetables like this, you want to cut with the skin side down. And that way you're not trying to break through the skin as you're cutting. So like I was saying, you've got the tip down, you're using the middle of the blade, and you're rocking it.
You're blowing our mind.
Oh, good, okay. Okay, so now that and this also is like an efficient way to cut. Like you want to cut all your little pieces, and now that we've got them all how we want them, I got the claw, right? And so now you kind of hold what you've got, and you can go through and cut them into a nice little small dice. And there's your peppers. Another thing which I didn't bring, a bench scraper, like a dough scraper. Those are really handy when you're doing things like this to pick up your produce. I might have one in my knife kit, but anyway. So that is the pepper process. All right, green onions. So I'll show you, this is kind of the similar way that you would process a lot of different herbs. I'm just gonna do the green part today.
I have a question about green onions.
Yeah.
I went to use green onions like last year and they were slimy sort of inside, and then I was reading that that's sort of normal. Is that wrong? Like there's a jelliness to them sometimes.
Yeah, so when you, it depends. I mean, there's like this layer, there's kind of a layer in between that's like a little, it's a little
Yeah.
slimy.
Is that fine to eat?
Yeah. I mean, it can't be like gooey. Gooey is... Maybe it's like, I don't know what. Okay, so the same way with the herbs, you want to hold them in a bunch and do that rocking and sliding motion. And just kind of move your knife down as you go. And,
Heather, when do you use the green part and when do you use the white part?
So green is good for like a raw application. The white, I mean, you can use the white for both, but you know, it's more punchy, like it's got more of that strong onion, where the green is a little bit of a lighter onion flavor. So I like to use the green, and it's nice to put on top of a dish. Like a lot of Asian dishes are really good with the green onion, or put it in a salad like this. So that's kind of how we would approach herbs. This is a cool little trick for tomatoes. Oh, hey, come back. So take a few, and then if you've got to cut a bunch in half, put your hand over it like that. Hold it flat, like.
Sorry, that was taking a lot longer.
At your own risk. At your own risk.
Is a serrated knife okay to use? Because I use a serrated knife on tomatoes.
Serrated is good for tomatoes, especially if your knives aren't super sharp, because it is hard to punch through the skin. It's hard to punch through the skin sometimes. So that's a good way to do that. And then our herbs like basil, it's super easy to bruise basil. So that one you have to be really gentle with. But it's so delicious. So this one you want, a chiffonade is a culinary term that you hear a lot of. A chiffonade is just a ribbon. And so you would like layer your greens into a little stack like that. And then you would slice through it like so. All right, so that's that. And then we have some arugula to make our pasta salad. I like to mix greens into my pasta salad. It like makes it healthier. There's our dressing that we made. Pasta, while I'm staring at it, just a quick note, like when you're cooking pasta or potatoes or anything in boiling water, you want your water to be about as salty as the ocean. Like, so when it's hard to know, it's a bigger pot. So you just salt it, stir it, and then taste it. It should taste kind of like seawater is a good way to kind of measure your saltiness. All right. Oh, we have some feta. That would be good. All right, but you guys have to eat some of this, like, before you do it.
Yeah.
Okay. Here, Emily, will you stir this? I'm going to keep going. Thanks. Oh, yeah. It just did a thing. Okay, what else? Do you want me to cut up a pineapple or a cantaloupe?
Pineapple.
Yeah. My friend was like, that's a good party trick. You should do that one. So when you're picking out a pineapple, it shouldn't be green. It should be like this more golden yellow color. And it even kind of looks like not super amazing. But if you smell it, it smells like a yummy pineapple. And also if you're storing pineapples, you can just take the top off and like not have to deal with that. So you want to take the top off, take the bottom off, get rid of those. And then you're just going to follow the shape of the pineapple down. And they have those little dimples, so you want to try to cut those off. And so then, like, once you've got the first slice, then you can kind of go where you're hanging over the edge of the last slice. I guess I'm not really facing the right way. I'm sorry. I'm right-handed. There's no way I can go the other way. And so that's how you get it peeled. Thanks, Emily. And then these were all washed, so definitely wash all your produce, even if you're putting it on the cutting board, because, you know, like if you put a dirty piece of produce on, now you have ready to eat produce that you don't want to cross-contaminate. So you want to cut it in half, and then you can see, you want to cut right down the middle of the core, and then you go down again, so you're quartering it, so that way you can see the core on all 4 pieces. And then you want to cut the core out. And so then you're left with just the good stuff. And then I usually cut that little piece in half. But this would be like that size that I had. You could just throw that whole thing on the grill. Grilled pineapple's delicious. Or on your Hawaiian pizza that nobody eats. And it is a good combination. It's salty and sweet, but it's weird on pizza. Okay, so that's the pineapple. I don't think we have time. Yeah. Oh, that's a great question. So this is plastic. I mean, this is a restaurant grade, so it has the little NSF on it. Composite, I think is what they're called. They're more like a plastic cutting board. You know, wood is great, but it's hard to clean because it's heavy and bulky. Glass, I would say no glass, because that's gonna like really damage your knife. But these are great because you can put them right in the dishwasher where you know it's gonna get sanitized and be safe for your next use. So yeah, that's my cutting board spiel. And I have different sizes, but I like to have little cutting boards too that I can pull out and just cut up like something for the kids really quick, so you don't have like a giant cutting board that you're toting around the room. Okay, well, really quickly, I know we are running out of time. I just wanted to talk about food safety really quick, if we have time. Can we switch back? Sorry. So we talked about storing things and saving them for next time. It's called the temperature danger zone. For Serve Safe certified chefs. That's what we learn about. So between 40 and 140 is where bacteria grows rampantly. Under 40, which is your fridge should be under 40. If you don't have a thermometer in there, it might be worth it to grab one just to make sure like your fridge is running right. So basically, if you're cooking something, you want to get it down to 40 degrees within 4 hours so it's safe, because when it's in that window, it's like, things could happen. So that's a big thing. If you're cooling it down in the fridge, I usually leave things out on the counter for like maybe 30 minutes and get that really hotness off of it, or put it into a shallow dish so it can spread out more. You can also use like ice packs. There's ice wands that we use in the restaurant business. It's basically a big ice stick that it's plastic, and you know, you put it in there to help cool it down. But if you can sit it on a tray of ice, I mean, that's crazy. What are we talking about? Just nobody's gonna do that. But anyway, so just try to get it in a shallow dish, or if you put it in the fridge to cool it down, leave it uncovered. Don't cover it, because then it can't cool down and all that bacteria starts to kind of grow in there. Most prepared foods are good for 5 days. So like if you make something and you don't think you're going to get through it in 5 days, just go ahead and like freeze a portion of it, and that way you don't have to worry about it. Cross-contamination, something you want to avoid. So if you're preparing chicken, like raw chicken or raw meat, you don't want to use the same cutting board as your raw vegetables. I usually do all my veggie prep first, and then I'll prep my meats just so I don't have to worry about that cross-contamination. But also with allergies and things like that, you want to be conscious of the surfaces and the utensils that you're using for which jobs. If you're gonna thaw something out, the best is under refrigeration, but if you could do it under cold running water too. If you're gonna cook it like right away, you could do hot, like warm water, but you need to like thaw it and cook it like right then. And then you want to properly store your raw food. So if you can, I know it's hard in most fridges, but like put your raw meat like on the bottom and then have anything prepared above it so you don't have the chance of any like juices dripping down on things like that. So that's everything. Yeah, questions and answers. That was a while